The Council's deception. It was the eve of the Galactic Council's annual summit, and the capital city of Nova Terra gleamed beneath an artificial aurora. Across the planet, the air buzzed with anticipation. Holoscreens flashed with the Council's slogan, "Unity through order." But in the starship Valiant's observation deck, Captain Mira Solis watched the celebrations in grim silence. The Valiant was Earth's pride, a symbol of peace and progress. But Mira had seen the shadows gathering behind its shining hull. 2 weeks earlier, the colony of Elysium Outpost had sent a distress signal, a garbled, panicked plea for help. Pirates, they'd claimed, or something far worse. Then silence. Mira had requested permission to investigate. But the Council's response was chillingly bureaucratic. Situation under review. Maintain standard patrol. She knew the Council well. Their words meant do nothing. Still, she disobeyed. With her first officer, Lieutenant Rafe Kim, she took the Valiant off course under the guise of a navigation recalibration. As they entered Elysium's system, Mira's unease sharpened. The colony's domes were shattered. Orbital docks were debris. No life signs. Not even the pirates had claimed responsibility. They found one survivor, a technician named Kala, traumatized, half frozen in a life pod. She spoke of ships that materialized out of nothing. Blue light tearing through the colony's defenses. Voices on the calm screaming about betrayal. But her words were fragmented, looping in terror. Council sold us. Council sold us. Back. On Nova Terra, Mira reported everything. She expected outrage, even fear. But the Council's response was immediate and coordinated. The incident was classified for security reasons. Mira's official log was altered. Kala vanished into the custody of the Council's medical division. Rafe's security clearance was suspended. This is not what we fought for, Mira thought bitterly. She'd enlisted to keep the colony safe, not to enforce the will of politicians. The Council's latest directive was the last straw. All patrol ships were to withdraw from the fringe colonies to prevent escalation. The Council declared, but Mira knew better. They were abandoning the colonies. That night, she attended a mandatory reception in the Council's Great Hall. Holo banners of the councilors hung from the walls, each one smiling. The most powerful, Chancellor Elias Moreau, raised a glass to galactic unity. Mira forced a smile. Her calm wristband vibrated, a coded alert from Rafe. She excused herself and slipped away. Finding Rafe waiting in a deserted corridor, he handed her a data ship, face pale. "I decrypted a Council relay by accident," he whispered. "You need to see this." In Mira's quarters, she inserted the chip. The screen filled with intercepted messages. Councilors negotiating with an unknown party, offering coordinates of undesirable colonies in exchange for support to maintain order. Terms like population reduction, operational cover, and eliminate resistance scrolled across the screen. Mira's pulse pounded. This was a plot to sacrifice entire worlds to cement Earth's authority, to use fear as a weapon. The support the Council sought came from an alien power, the Zelvar, rumored to command fleets that could erase a planet's surface in minutes. If this deal went through, Earth would hold the galaxy hostage. Rafe's hands shook. "We have to warn the colonies, and we have to go public. If we don't..." Alarms blared suddenly. The Valiant was locked down, its crew ordered to stand by for inspection. The Council had discovered Mira's deviation from her orders. Security bots swarmed the corridors, rounding up officers suspected of disloyalty. Mira knew she had only minutes. She sent an encrypted signal to loyalists among her crew, Lieutenant Ada Fine, the ship's cybernetics expert, and Dr. Rowan, who had patched up refugees from the last pirate raid. "Prepare for departure. This is not a drill. Trust no Council order." As the security team reached the bridge, Mira and her officers took the Valiant offline. With Ada's hacking, they cut power to the ship's transponders and disabled the Council's remote override. The ship lurched free, breaking orbit and disappearing into the void, leaving Nova Terra's defense grid sputtering in confusion. Rafe set a course for the rebel enclave on Bastion Station, where Mira knew some colonies had begun forming their own resistance. Every second counted. In the silence of deep space, Mira stared out at the endless stars. The truth was clear: the Council had betrayed not just her, not just the colonies, but all of humanity. Their hunger for power had blinded them to the cost. As the Valiant raced toward the unknown, Mira vowed she would not rest until the truth was known and the Council's lies were brought into the light. She only hoped it was not already too late. Arrival of the fleet stars above Bastion Station were crowded with the drifting hulks of battered civilian ships, the remains of a desperate exodus from the colonies. Captain Mira Solis guided the Valiant through the maze of vessels, watching from her command seat as the bridge's viewport filled with the massive, angular form of Bastion itself, a fortress carved into the bones of a captured asteroid. Gleaming with the ragged defiance of the Resistance, docking clamps latched onto the Valiant as Mira's crew braced for confrontation. The station's defenders were wary. Rumors spread fast, and the Council's reach was long. Mira exited the airlock flanked by Lieutenant Rafe Kim and Lieutenant Ada Fine. Their uniforms bore the insignia of the Earth Fleet, once a symbol of hope, now a mark of suspicion. At the docking bay, a tense squad greeted them, laser rifles up, faces hard. Mira raised her hands in surrender. "We're not Council. We have information you need." A woman in battered rebel armor stepped forward, her gaze steely. "Prove it." Mira nodded to Rafe, who transmitted the encrypted files, the evidence of the Council's plot. Within minutes, Bastion's leadership gathered in the dim-lit command center. Holomaps of the galaxy flickered, showing red blots, colonies lost to mysterious attacks. "Earth has betrayed us," Mira announced. She played back the intercepted transmissions, the Council bartering colony locations for Zelvar support, promising extermination of Resistance in exchange for undisputed control. Voices trembled as the evidence scrolled by, the room growing colder with each passing second. A young rebel, eyes haunted, slammed his fist on the table. "We begged for help, and they fed us to monsters. How can anyone trust Earth now?" The Resistance leaders debated furiously. Some wanted to strike back immediately. Others argued for escape. But it was clear the Council would stop at nothing to maintain its grip. Already, Earth's propaganda networks twisted the truth, painting the colonies as hotbeds of rebellion and criminality. The Council's message blared on every public channel. "The time for unity is now. Any resistance will be destroyed for the greater good." Then the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath as the Council acted. At 0300 hours Terran Standard, telescopes caught the shimmer of a fleet assembling above Earth, warships that dwarfed anything seen before, bristling with new, experimental weapons. The fleet's formation, dozens of dreadnoughts, carriers, and hunter-killer squadrons stretched across orbit like an iron net. The Council's official transmission echoed through every device. "In response to escalating chaos, Earth's fleet will restore order. Any colony harboring traitors will face total annihilation." Panic seized the outer colonies. On Bastion, refugees poured into the command center, desperate for news, for hope, for a plan. Mira watched them, mothers clutching children, engineers hauling crates of scavenged supplies, medics tending the wounded from other shattered worlds. The air was thick with fear, but there was no time for mourning. On the Valiant's bridge, Ada brought up intercepted fleet comms. "They're moving, Captain. The first wave is heading for Sagan's world, then Arcadia Prime. They'll be here next." Mira's mind raced. Sagan's world was a trade hub, a beacon of independence. If the fleet destroyed it, the message would be clear: submit or be erased. She called a council of war. Rebel captains, station commanders, and a handful of Zelvar envoys, gaunt, gray-skinned beings who watched with quiet horror, gathered around the tactical holodeck. Mira showed them the fleet's trajectory, the scale of its armament. "We can't win a straight fight, but if we can get the truth out, show the colonies what the Council's really doing, we can turn the people against them, maybe even split their own fleet." A grim-faced Zelvar, Speaker Zira, nodded. "We were told your leaders desired peace. Instead, we see only war. The Council lied to us as well. We will not be used." The plan was simple, yet desperate. Mira would lead a strike on Sagan's world to evacuate as many as possible, while the Resistance's hackers broke the Council's communications firewall, broadcasting the evidence to every system. Ada coordinated with Zelvar technomancers, fusing human and alien systems for a surge powerful enough to override the Council's signal jammers. As the Resistance scrambled to prepare, The first images from Sagan's world came through Council. Dreadnoughts dropping from hyperspace, their guns turning the night sky to fire. Orbitals detonated. Cities burned. A child's voice cried over the comms. They're coming. They're everywhere. Someone please help. Static. Mira clenched her fists, forcing herself not to break. She rallied her crew. We can't save everyone, but we can fight, and we can show the galaxy the truth. Ready the Valiant. Launch in 15. The Resistance scrambled. Bastion's battered squadrons and Zelvar scouts joined the Valiant as it leapt into hyperspace. Leaving Bastion shrouded in darkness and hope, they arrived in the ruins of Sagan's world. The sky a tangled mass of burning ships and falling debris. Mira's squadron swept through, tractor beams hauling escape pods and lifeboats. Rafe coordinated medical triage as Ada launched the hacked broadcast across the galaxy. The truth flashed. The Council has betrayed humanity. Earth's fleet brings not peace, but total annihilation. Resist. Survive. Fight back. The message sparked chaos and hope in equal measure on dozens of worlds. Uprisings erupted as people realized the full scale of the Council's betrayal. Some ships in the fleet hesitated, their crews reluctant to fire on fellow humans. But Admiral Celis, Earth's warlord, drove the attack onward, ordering entire populations exterminated. Back on Bastion, as the fleet prepared for its next assault, Mira stood with Speaker Zira in a quiet corner of the command deck. We trusted your counsel, Zira said softly. Now we must trust you. Mira nodded, her heart weighed by loss and determination. We won't survive alone, but together, maybe just maybe we can stop them. As the fleet's shadow lengthened over Bastion and Arcadia Prime, and as the galaxy trembled on the edge of oblivion, the seeds of rebellion took root. The war had truly begun. The annihilation begins for a brief moment after Mira's broadcast. The galaxy hesitated like the breath before a scream. The truth was everywhere. Holoads in neon markets, pirate radio signals, even whispered through calm static on doomed worlds. The Council's betrayal could not be hidden anymore. But Earth's fleet did not falter. Planetfall, Arcadia Prime, the world of Arcadia Prime, had always prided itself on its beauty, a blue and green jewel, famed for its floating gardens and crystalline cities. Now, its sky churned with the arrival of the fleet. The first Council dreadnought, Glory of Terra, blocked out the sun, its silhouette eclipsing whole continents. Admiral Celis, standing on the bridge, regarded the world below with cold calculation. Her orders were absolute. Break the spirit of resistance, no matter the cost. Target the Hydra grid and city domes, she commanded. Show them the price of defiance. The dreadnought's weapons spun to life, unleashing lances of searing white energy. Towers crumbled. The floating garden symbols of hope for 1,000 years were vaporized in seconds. Population centers dissolved into glass and ash. Mira, leading the battered rebel squadron, watched the destruction unfold from orbit. Her ship shook as debris pelted the hull. Rafe, at the tactical station, reported that all resistance on the surface was being systematically erased. We're too late, he said, his voice hollow. Mira gritted her teeth, turning to Ada. Patch me into the colony's remaining shelters. Get me through any way you can. Static gave way to desperate voices. Mira's face appeared in the emergency broadcast, her eyes fierce. This is Captain Mira Solis. The Council has lied to you. They have sent their fleet not to protect, but to destroy. If you can escape, do it now. If you can resist, do not. Give up. Help is coming. The transmission was cut off by jamming, but the words stuck. Burning like a brand, the fleet's march. Arcadia was only the beginning. System by system, Earth's fleet advanced. Ymir's icy mining domes, the forests of Meridian, the markets of Aurora Station, each one fell to fire and thunder. The fleet's new eradicator drones swarming over cities and settlements like locusts. The drones, small, fast, merciless, hunted down survivors, melting through stone and steel with silent, blue flame. The Council's propaganda spewed across every open channel. These actions are regrettable but necessary. Order must be restored. On some worlds, loyalist militias turned on their neighbors. On others, the population vanished in a single hour of orbital bombardment. On Bastion Station, Mira and the resistance leaders listened as more and more colonies fell silent. The holo map of the galaxy once dotted with the light of hundreds of independent settlements grew dark and empty. Mira struggled to hold the coalition together. Fights broke out between refugees from destroyed worlds and the Bastion regulars. The Zelvar, now fully aware of the Council's duplicity, offered their cloaked frigates and telepathic scouts, but their numbers were thin. Their own worlds were under threat from other human factions, whipped up by the Council's lies. "We are fighting on too many fronts," Speaker Zero warned in a council meeting. "You cannot win this with courage alone. We can't surrender." Mira shot back, haunted by visions of Arcadia's gardens burning. "We must give the people something to believe in," Rafe added quietly. "If we lose hope now, we lose everything." Turning Point's resistance adapted, learning from defeat. Ada, with the help of Zelvar technomancers, created viral countermeasures to scramble the fleet's targeting algorithms. On the world of Lyra, guerrilla fighters used the planetary rings to hide whole cities from orbital scans. Bastion's hackers broke into the fleet's comms, exposing the scale of atrocities, and spreading blueprints for shield generators that could buy cities a few extra hours every time the fleet destroyed a colony. 3 more rebel cells rose up, armed now not just with weapons, but with a burning sense of betrayal and nothing left to lose. But Earth's fleet was relentless. Admiral Celis grew more ruthless, authorizing the use of Dawnfire Protocol, a weapon of last resort. On the ocean world of Vesta, the fleet detonated an antimatter device in the atmosphere. The sea boiled, storms raged for weeks, and the world's surface was left uninhabitable. The Holonet overflowed with horror, seas of flame, moons cracked apart, fields of refugees stumbling through the ruins of their lives. The Council responded by cutting all non-official transmissions, but it was too late. Even in darkness, the truth spread like wildfire. The Zelvar Alliance a desperate. Mira and Speaker Zero called for a new strategy. "We can't hold territory," Zero reasoned, "but we can bleed them sabotage, interception, rescue. Turn the fleet's own size and pride against it." Using Zelvar stealth tech, the resistance began targeting the fleet's supply convoys on the mining colony of Perseus. They detonated the hangars before the fleet's marines landed, forcing them into brutal close-quarters fighting among the wreckage. On Aurora Station, Mira led a boarding party that captured a Council cruiser, using its codes to broadcast new evidence of Council war crimes directly into the fleet's internal network. A new rumor spread through the ranks. Admiral Celis herself had ordered the annihilation of her own cousin's world. But there were commanders in the fleet beginning to question their orders. Mira saw her chance. Every defection counts. Every rescued civilian is a future ally. But with every minor victory came greater loss. Ada lost her brother on Lyra. Rafe's old mentor was executed after helping refugees escape a Council roundup. Mira received a transmission from her own parents' prisoners on a Council world. Their fates now bargaining chips in a war for humanity's soul. The breaking point as the fleet prepared to finish off Bastion Station, its greatest and last stronghold. The resistance gathered their scattered forces for a final stand. Mira called every surviving rebel captain and Zelvar ship to the Bastion defense grid. As she addressed them in the command center, her voice trembled with anger and hope. The Council thought they could rule with fear. They thought they could burn the truth. But look around you, every one of us is a survivor. Every one of us is here because we chose to fight. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone who can't. We will not surrender. We will not be erased. Rafe handed her a signal. Admiral Celis had arrived. Earth's fleet reduced, but still vast, spread like a storm over Bastion. In the quiet before the battle, Mira glanced out the viewport at the battered ships, the flickering shields, the faces of her crew. She thought of Arcadia's burning gardens, of the countless worlds lost, of the future yet to be won. The time for resistance was over. Now was the time for survival or total annihilation. The last stand Bastion Station had always been a fortress, a symbol of rebellion and hope, hammered together from the ruins of dead worlds. Now it was the last, flickering ember of resistance. All around it, the void churned with Earth's fleet. Engines ablaze, weapons armed, their hulls bristling with the pride and wrath of the Council. Inside Bastion's command deck, Captain Mira Solis felt the enormity of history pressing in on her. She watched as battered rebel ships and Zelvar frigates clustered in tight formations. Hiding among the debris fields, the station's power grid flickered. Shields at their breaking point, the cries of frightened refugees and wounded echoed through the corridors. Yet even as fear swept the decks, resolve burned stronger. This is it, Mira thought. No retreat, no surrender. The calm before the storm Mira stood before her crew, humans and Zel. Var, young and old, the desperate and the determined. She spoke with the calm of one who has nothing left to lose. We stand not just for ourselves, but for every world that fell in silence, every voice that was betrayed, every child who fled the flames. Today, we do not fight for the Council's vision of order, but for the right to choose our own destiny. We will show them that humanity is more than fear, more than obedience. Today, we fight for freedom. Applause muted, tired, but fierce echoed through the battered halls. Across Bastion, rebel fighters prepared for the onslaught. Medics readied makeshift hospitals in cargo bays. Techs worked at fever pitch, welding new armor over ruptured bulkheads. Ada fine, sleepless and gaunt, linked Zelvar cloaking fields into Bastion's shield array, buying a precious hour before the fleet could lock on target. Rafe Kim coordinated with rebel ships, forming a web of decoys and ambush points. In the dark, Mira felt his hand squeeze hers, a silent promise that whatever happened, she was not alone. Battle begins. The silence shattered as the glory of Terra led the fleet in a thunderous charge. Dreadnoughts poured fire into the debris field, vaporizing whole asteroids. Swarms of Eradicator drones streaked toward Bastion, burning holes in the outer defenses. The rebels responded. Zelvar frigates, invisible until the last second, darted between enemy ships, sabotaging engines and sowing chaos. Pirate fighters, newly allied to the cause, dove through the chaos, launching EMP torpedoes. Bastion's main gun, an ancient, planet-cracking railgun, roared to life, cleaving a Council cruiser in two. Yet the fleet's power was overwhelming. Admiral Celis, her face a mask of fury on every open channel, drove her ships forward. No mercy, no quarter. Destroy the station. End the rebellion now. Wave after wave, rebel lines collapsed. Hulls split. Lifeboats tumbled into vacuum. On Bastion's command deck, Mira watched her friends die. The shields dropping by the minute. She would not look away. She would not break out. The turning point in the heart of battle. A miracle. Zelvar technomancers, risking everything, infiltrated the fleet's central comms. Ada and her team amplified the signal using Bastion's dying reactors, overriding Council encryption. Mira seized the moment. Her face bloodied, unbowed filled every fleet view screen. Every calm in the system. You follow orders from cowards who hide behind your guns. Look at what you're doing. Open your hatches. Let the refugees speak. Listen to the worlds you're burning. Is this the humanity you believe in? For a moment, the fleet wavered. Some captains hesitated. One Council cruiser stood down, then another. Lifeboats from destroyed colonies were rescued, not obliterated. Admiral Celis, enraged, ordered the glory of Terra to initiate Dawnfire Protocol, the same weapon that had destroyed Vesta's oceans. She would turn Bastion's asteroid core into a bomb, ending all resistance forever. Sacrifice knowing what was coming. Mira made her choice. She ordered all surviving rebels and refugees to evacuate, loading shuttles and Zelvar craft with the wounded and the innocent. Rafe, bleeding from a shrapnel wound, protested, "You can't stay, Mira. You're the reason any of us are still fighting." Mira smiled, tears streaking the dust from her face. Someone has to hold the line. Tell the galaxy the truth. Tell them we chose to fight. She turned to Ada and Zira. Get them out. That's an order. As shuttles streaked away, Bastion shook under a final bombardment. Mira led the last defenders in a counter-strike, blasting through the debris, boarding the glory of Terra itself. Amid shattered corridors and burning bulkheads, she found Admiral Celis. The two women faced each other, opposites in every way, yet united by fire and loss. "This is what your Council made us," Mira said, raising her sidearm. they made. U.S. survivors, Sealess spat. You are nothing without Earth. They fought a brutal, desperate struggle in a collapsing command bridge. At last, Mira prevailed, using Ada's override code to disable the glory of Terra's main reactor. She opened the comm one last time, broadcasting the Council's secret orders, her own testimony, and the faces of the survivors, as the station and the dreadnought burned around her. Mira's voice was heard across the galaxy. We are more than the Council's lies. Remember us. Remember the cost. Aftermath when the fires died. The fleet was broken, fractured by rebellion, haunted by shame. Bastion was gone, but so too was the illusion of Earth's invincibility. The Council, exposed and disgraced, lost all legitimacy. Their puppet masters were hunted down. Their surviving loyalists retreated to the Sol system, isolated and hated. Rafe, Ada, and Zira led the survivors to a new world, a place where Zelvar and human could begin again. Across the stars, colonies rose from the ashes, forging alliances not of fear, but of mutual respect. In time, they built a new council, one without secrets, where every world had a voice. Statues of Mira Solis and the defenders of Bastion stood in gardens on Arcadia, beside pools of green and blue, where children played and stories were told. Her message endured. Humanity is not built on obedience or conquest, but on the courage to stand together when all hope is lost. Epilogue. New dawn a century later. In the floating gardens of a reborn Arcadia Prime, children asked about the dark time when the sky burned and hope seemed lost. The elders pointed to Mira's star in the sky and said, there was a woman who refused to kneel, and because she fought, we are free. And across the galaxy, as new ships set out for the unknown, their hulls bore the simple words that had saved 1,000 worlds. Remember Bastion. Remember the truth.